Welcome to my analog mixing console tutorial. So today we are going to talk about inserts. This port, inserts. It's called inserts. Do you know what these ports work for? Because in every analog mixing console where you have these ports, in a very standard analog mixing console, you will have 4 inputs where you have microphone, line in, insert, and direct out. So in any music console, whenever you see a console that has direct out, a mixing console from mic, line, insert, direct out. So whenever you see a console that have that port direct out, that is the standard studio console. But I'm not going to talk about direct out today. So I'm going to talk about inserts. On my last video, we have discussed about mic input and line input. Today we are going to discuss about this insert. What does it really do? So inserts, this insert is where you had your external processor. Maybe you need a compressor or a noise gate. If I want to mix a drum now, if I want to mix a drum on my digital mixer, the processor that I'm going to need to mix that drums very well, I am going to use a compressor and a noise gate, because digital mixer has everything inbuilt on it. But in analog mixer, you have to add the external processor to this guy before you can achieve that kind of sound. So that is where this guy will come in. So this is the insert cable. So these are the insert cable. It's not like the normal jack to jack that you use. If you can see, it's called a bidirectional cable. The reason why we call it a bidirectional, or if you don't call it a bidirectional, you can call it two-way cable. Two-way cable. Now, the reason why it's bidirectional is that this cable is capable of taking two different type of signal at the same time. Now, I will explain. Now, let's talk about this inserts. You see, where you have an external processor like noise gate, compressor, I can decide, you see this graphics equalizer, I can decide to insert it on this channel. Normal graphics equalizer, I can decide to add it, to insert it on this channel. I can add any processor through inserts. So this is how it works. When you plug a microphone on this input, and you had your insert cable on this guy. Okay, let's wait. When you plug a microphone on this input, now let's talk about signal flow. This is how the signal flow. Now, when you plug a microphone on this input, from the input, because by the time you plug a microphone to this guy, the signal will flow from the input all the way to the output. That's when you plug your microphone, the signal will flow from the input section. After all the manipulation, the EQ, everything, now the signal will flow to the fader level here before it goes out on the main. Now, in the case of insert cable, when I plug a microphone on these inputs and I plug my insert down, You know what will happen if I have a compressor and I plug this guy? You know, in your compressor you have inputs and outputs on the compressor. So you plug these two guys on the input and the output, but noted, you have to know this. You have to know this. There is inputs and there is outputs. Now, you plug this. When you plug this on the compressor, now, you know we have plugged this guy on these inserts. This guy has been plugged here. Your microphone has been plugged here. Now, what will happen is that instead of this signal to travel all the way to the aux, to the output, no, the signal will hold. The signal will first travel through this cable to your processor. The signal will travel from the input after taking the gain and all this thing. You know, you have your gain. After passing through gain, instead of the signal to travel direct to the output, no, the signal will not travel direct to the output. The signal will travel through this cable first to the input, where it's going to be processed. So after the processing, from the output of your compressor or your noise gate, signal will travel back through the output of the processor. Then the signal will flow back to the mixing console before going out. So that is how insert cable work. Then in any console where you see, now I can decide if I want to use a compressor on my main left and right. If I want to use a compressor on my main left and right, see, look at this console now. You have an option to do an insert. You have an option here on this mixing console. So I can decide to insert a compressor, any external processor on my main left and right. I can decide to insert graphics equalizer on it. So thank you very much. In case you find my video interesting, don't forget to share this video with others, and don't forget to follow me. Thank you. God bless you. See you next time.